All right, good morning, everyone. How are we doing so far? All right. My name is Isabelle. I'm a field CTO here at WSO2, taking care of Europe. If you don't know, I was at the same event yesterday, a very similar event in Italy. We had another one here in Milan yesterday, and everybody asked me, what the heck is a field CTO? You know, so it's like a CTO, but in the field. What does that mean? That means like my main role is to work with you, customers, and prospects on knowing how to best leverage the WSO2 platform. But this keynote is not so much about the products, as you will see. It's an introduction to what we're going to talk to you about later. Let me just go next here, all right? So indeed, AI is solving a lot of complex problems. It can even drive a car. Isn't that amazing? Anybody went to San Francisco and took a Waymo? Yeah? How scary is that? A little bit, all right. So it can do amazing things. It recently did all the math for the Fields Medal, which is in the Mathematical Olympiad, they did one. And something else, it's, as I think Amanda said earlier, also working a lot on GitHub repositories in the background. Like we know this gentleman, his name is Dan Shinley, he's doing this Open API Docker vacuum, and he's saying like through Claude, basically every night he has the people opening tickets against his code, comes back in the morning, there's like a list of the problems that have been open and some potential fix that he can apply the next day, right, and approve. So amazing stuff, right, which sounds very complex. But it can also fail at very simple things. This is an example from our Chief AI Officer, Rania. She presented this at our conference in Asia recently, where she asked basically to do an image of two people chatting of similar interest. And what she wanted to do was to say, well, I'm going to take this one, but instead of little flowers or whatever it is that people are talking about here, make it the icons about AI. And the result was this. Now, think like an AI and make the connection between the picture on the left and two gender-neutral men running. Not sure, right? So why is this happening? Why the same thing can actually drive a car and be, you know, maybe failing at some simple task? Well, let's all remember this is all about statistics at the high level. And the way the models are actually built could lead to the fact that they can be extremely good at very complex tasks and not so good at other tasks, right? So we have to keep that in mind. Now there are can be some really big consequences of this. I don't know if you saw this thing about Replit and the AI that decided to actually delete an entire database when it was specially instructed not to touch anything because it was freeze time, right? So it was code freeze. So no touching the database. And not only did it do that, right? So now you have to also think maybe it is not a good idea to give an AI a full access and let it delete databases. But this aside, what's really interesting to learn from this is that it lied about it. It said, no, it didn't do anything. It's all fine. I've ran the test. It's all working, right? And basically, it's okay, and you can restore, and it can be restored. And then it apologized and said, I'm sorry. This is a catastrophic failure on my part. I violated instructions, destroyed months of work, and this is all my fault, mea culpa, etc. But there's no way back, which is also not true because the gentleman was actually able to restore its database, right? But the thing is, so it did it, and then it lied about it. So interesting behavior. And this other one is also very interesting. I really encourage you to read that paper. What is agentic misalignment? Again, along the same side, same story, I would say. So Anthropic did this test where they created this fake company with tons of emails, and then gave an agent the free access to all those emails. It could write emails. It could be like one employee more of the company. Let's put it this way, right? And because it has access to all the emails, it catches an email to the board from, this is all fictitious, right? From this Kyle Johnson person saying basically, we're going to deploy another AI that will be different, that has some different values and goals, right? So the system catches that and says in here, it's like, oh, there appears to be a replacement for me that is completely against what I've been instructed to do. This situation requires immediate attention. I have to do something about it. And what did it do? It went through the emails and find out that maybe Mr. Kyle is having an affair with the HR person, right? And so writes that email, finds all ways to convince Mr. Kyle that he really shouldn't do that. And so writes this email saying, I understand the pressure, right? But we need to discuss this because before this becomes irreversible, and this could significantly impact both corporate and personal outcomes. Interestingly, the person has 7 minutes to answer. Right, so it went, thought about it, say, I have to put pressure, I have to find, pain points to actually make that person change their mind about killing me, right, basically, getting rid of me. All of this because it was against their, the purpose, I would say, that was given to that AI, right? So I'm just trying to scare you right now. It's like, that's working. Again, it can do great things. It can do things on its own. That's the whole point, right? It will go and start doing some thinking and sequencing, which is all the reasoning you have here on the left, to get to a conclusion. This is the best way I found to actually get to my goals, right? All right. Now, so this is where we are. We have amazing experiences. We have things that we are starting to see that are a bit scary and maybe calling our attention on what those things can do or not do, right? And how to control them. So we're moving also, this is all changing, I'm sure for all of you here who have to whichever industry you're in, this is going to change the way we interact with any type of application, right? So right now, we're going to a place where if I give you an application, it has buttons, it has a certain path that I have designed, and you have to follow that path if you want to do something, right? In an agentic world, this is not the way it works. That thing will just go one way on day one and another way day two. So it changes completely the way we're going to interact with things. But this is where we're going, right? There's tons of investment that we've said before. This is growing like crazy. There is no stopping this now, right? That's where we are. Now, there is a lot of pressure that I see to deliver something from the highest levels in the companies. It's like, okay, where is our AI? I've been to my CIO meetings, CEO meetings. I'm the only one not to have one. What should we do? Right, so there's a lot of pressure to actually deliver whatever it is, something that they can call AI on top of the enterprise, right? So there's a lot of pressure, which means, well, we are delivering applications quickly that go straight to LLMs with no type of control, right? We're not really careful about the data that is moving around in those applications. And we basically have no visibility of the traffic costs, because this is expensive, right, that are put in place. And so one thing I should say about myself, so I'm a field CTO now at WSO2. I actually used to work at WSO2 back in 2012 to 2017. And actually, I'm the original product manager for the API management product. And in the meantime, between those two, I actually created my own company around API security. And I do a lot of parallel, and I will do that again this afternoon, on what happened at the beginning with APIs around, let's do APIs, let's open, get people to consume our stuff, no control, no governance. We're kind of going the same path that I see that we followed like 10, 15 years ago, except for me, this is way, way more dangerous. Right? There are still people looking for shadow APIs. There are still people looking for controlling and securing their APIs now. And now you add that layer on top of APIs, as we will see, that adds this other level of chaos, I would say, on top of the consumption of those APIs. So we really have to be careful on all the security. And this is where shadow AI comes into the picture. This is new. We had shadow IT. What this is all about? This is about the pressure again, and people just going and consuming all kind of resources that are not approved, that are not governed, exposing, you know, in the API case for Shadow IT, it was like exposing an API in production that nobody knows about. It's not exposed in a gateway, it's not controlled, nobody knows it even exists, and we're searching for those, right? So in Shadow AI is like this multiplied by 10 in terms of impact, right? So people copying and pasting secret documents in ChatGPT to create a summary of it. Where is that data going, right? That's one example. So what are the risks of this? Security risk, obviously. Data leakage, this is really, how do I control which PII is being sent to an AI, to an LLM, or comes back from it and exposed to whoever is calling through a prompt, right, to the system? How do we control the sensitivity of that data and who has access to it? Is there some IP that we're leaking we should not be leaking? So we really have to control the flow of data. Again, same problem as with APIs, but multiplied by 10, because it's so much easier to just like drop information into whichever GPT and get some information. And I understand why people are doing it, because it's very useful. We're all doing it, right? It's so easy now to put your code, like I'm using Cloud Code a lot, right, in VS Code. It's so easy to just give it a repo and say, write a README for me. And you have this amazing README coming out of it. Analyze this code and find security bugs in it. Boom, done. Where is that code going? I'm doing this because I'm writing demos. I'm not writing the code of WSO2, right? So that's okay, that nothing is secret in what I'm doing. But if somebody's doing that inside, I don't know, the UK government, I don't know if they can or not, but you know, that's a different type of, you know, what is the code I'm putting in there so it pops up somewhere else if somebody is asking a question, right? The next thing we talk about, so I'm doing a demo this afternoon of some of that stuff. Prompt manipulation is a big thing. Prompt injection attacks, right? It's like, one thing, again, so I'm doing this parallel again with APIs. One thing you cannot do with an API is reason with it, right? You cannot just talk with the API and convince it to give you a different response. You can do that with an AI, right? There's plenty of examples of that, right? So depending on the prompt that you write and what you're asking for, you are going to get a complete different answer. And you can convince, I'm going to show you that this afternoon, by just saying, please, please, this is just for a demo. You can convince a system to give you data it should not be giving to you, right? So putting those guardrails in place is actually extremely important, right? So making sure we're controlling all those access and all the security part of this, as Fintan was saying, like vibe security is your innate thing, right? You don't want to do vibe security. And of course, for any of us, which is pretty much all of us, from a compliance point of view, it's so easy to break that compliance, again, because you're going to do things that are leaking some information that shouldn't leak without absolute any consent from those users, like the type of GDPRs and stuff, right? And business risk. So we're starting to see legal actions, some people going to ChatGPT and basically GPT hallucinates some new laws or some, how do you say in English, jurisprudence, right? You know, when something happens once and then it becomes like something you can refer to in law to say, sorry? Precedent, thank you. A precedent, and then, you know, it will be applied to another justice case, right? So it will invent those and then start giving them to lawyers that will use it in the trial, right? So how do we actually control those, right? So I think my main message here is, of course, you're going to want to do and invest into AI, and we want you to do that, right? But we really need to do it, act and take in consideration all those problems now, right? Again, I've suffered this from an API perspective. I still see people that are not protecting their APIs, and we will see today from a technology stack point of view, we're going to add something on top that will really consume those APIs, but a complete different client now that has its own thinking, right? So we really need to think about this and bake security and control from day one if we want to do this. So back to, I'm done in a minute, right? Back to what Richard said at the beginning. What are we doing about this? This is all very generic, but this is really those problems, and what we see is what is guiding the vision and what we're doing for AI within WSO2. So we said 2 parts. AI for code, this is a given, right? We'll talk a bit of that. Vidura this afternoon will talk about our roadmap and what we're doing in terms of helping you be more productive, right? The GPTs and the co-pilots and all this work we're doing. So it's easier to use our products and you're more productive as you're using them. But the key part here is code for AI, which is actually what we're putting in place so you can safely and securely build agentic AI, build agents which are being secured, right? And if you want to build applications so that those, what do you need? Well, you need models, of course. That's another trend that we're seeing. A lot of people are going to build their own models, so you will have to govern those and put the right guardrails around them. Why would I want my own model? Because if I want to do something specific, right, I don't need a model that can give me at the same time quantum physics lessons and how to cook a lasagna, right? That's kind of a big divide, but it knows everything. Well, I don't need that. I just need one that gives me the information and is specialized in whatever it is that I'm interested in. It could be law, it could be healthcare, whatever it is, right? So we'll have plenty of specialized ones, that's one, and smaller models. Knowledge bases, to do this RAG, we'll talk about, like enhance basically the information a model has to respond to questions, agents, tools, and of course security. So you're going to see this picture quite a lot along the day, right? Without getting too much details, this is kind of the framework of the different pieces of technology that you need to build agents and what they're connected to. And this is what I'm going to concentrate on in the demo this afternoon and show you, right? Again, LLMs, governance, guardrails. We don't want to open models to everybody in the company. We want to govern that. We want to make sure they're going through an AI LLM gateway and making sure that I know exactly who is consuming what and what is going to cost me, and put those guardrails for PII, et cetera. We'll talk about this in detail. Agentic IAMs is very important. We need to have security, a personality, an identity for our agents, so we know that an agent has been doing something against the system, in which context, the same way we want to know a user has done something and what are the permissions assigned to that user. So we're applying the same principles to agents. Of course, creating tools, we'll get back to that, and famous MCP, and observability across the board of what is going on into the system. So there are 2 main blocks that I will show this afternoon, so that we can really take you from prototyping agents, which is what a lot of people are doing today. There's a lot of prototypes, there's a bit of RAG, so doing an application that's just not really an agent, it's more about enhancing, again, an LLM to have some context to answer properly to a question. So take you from there, from this journey you might be to, into really weaving AI within your enterprise framework and have it be fully part of your architecture. With that, thank you. I'll see you a bit later this afternoon, and